Hi, I'm David Terrace, partner at the Rossen law firm and head of our federal criminal defense practice. I'm here today to talk to you about a tragic situation that we all know about, and that's the case of the investigation involving Gabby Petito. The first question that is very commonly asked, and why we feel as lawyers are in a great position to answer this and to make this content, is what exactly is going on with this investigation as it currently stands. And a lot of questions that we see coming up are, why is the FBI involved? Is this a federal investigation? Is this a state investigation? Of course, this is still in the very early stages. Now, we're seeing in the media that they're on a nearly minute-by-minute basis, there are updates. But there's a interesting legal matter here, which is, why is the FBI involved? This happened in Northport, allegedly happened in Northport, Florida. So how does the FBI play a role here? The FBI has an immense amount of resources. Northport, Florida probably doesn't have the same kind of resources that Miami-Dade County has, or that Broward County or Palm Beach County has. And even if it was in one of these larger counties in Florida, very, very often you will have a federal bureau come in to assist in sort of what we call a task force version, which is a joint effort between the federal and state authorities on cases where a significant amount of resources, time, and taxpayer dollars is needed in order to properly investigate a case. But certainly the FBI is in the best position as far as their resources go to help bring a speedy resolution to this matter. Of course, not only for the people who are following it, but most importantly to the families and the loved ones that are involved here. The next matter we want to address is, why is Brian Laundrie still being called a person of interest as opposed to a suspect or a defendant, and how this plays out in the nature of his investigation. So what we do as criminal defense attorneys, when someone comes to us and says we might be under investigation, the police contacted us, or we may have already committed a crime, what's the best first step? And the best first step is always to invoke your rights. What rights are we talking about here? The main rights we're talking about are the 5th and 6th Amendments of the United States Constitution. 5th Amendment is the big one, right to remain silent. 6th Amendment, right to counsel, right to have counsel present when any questions are asked by law enforcement. Now, many people who aren't attorneys, the general public, and rightfully so, when they hear that somebody has quote unquote lawyered up or has invoked their right to remain silent, there's this saying that where there's smoke, there's fire. Something must be going on here. And that's not always the case. And we're not here to defend anyone's actions. It's very early in this investigation. But invoking your rights, whether you're innocent, guilty, however a case or an investigation may play out, is always the intelligent move. Everybody has constitutional rights to remain silent. It does not mean you're guilty. Judges understand this, prosecutors understand this, attorneys understand this, and every member of the public, God forbid they ever found themselves in a situation like this, would be very, very grateful that the Constitution grants them this privilege. It does not mean they're guilty. It means that they have made a wise decision in bringing on a legal team at this stage and let the lawyers, let the professionals handle the investigation. Not just blocking them from potential criminal exposure, but also being the ones to facilitate potentially moving this investigation along. If Brian Laundrie were to become a suspect or were to be charged here, the attorneys can help facilitate this process, not only in their client's best interest, but also in the community's best interest as well, because the two are not always mutually exclusive. Another very poignant aspect of this investigation and what we're hearing in the news is that this person of interest and potential suspect, Brian Laundrie, has apparently gone into hiding. One of the most recent updates was that even his family has told the FBI that they don't know where he is. As criminal defense attorneys, we do not recommend that. Sticking your head in the sand, hoping that you can hide and that this will all blow over, is a very, very unintelligent decision, and it is not the right way to handle your case. We have the FBI involved here. If the FBI wants to get you, they will. Okay, they can get the Marshal Service involved. They have the power of the entire Department of Justice at their disposal. Okay, and they will find you. what should he be doing? He should be hiring an attorney. And if he's already hired an attorney, he should be communicating with that attorney, and that attorney should be arranging to have a meeting with the FBI, with the state, local law enforcement, a sit down, not necessarily with Mr. Laundrie present, but a sit down to discuss what it would look like if Mr. Laundrie were to make himself available for potentially a voluntary statement. Maybe if they've already developed suspicion enough to arrest him and then to charge him or to indict him if it's federal, or to serve him with an information if it's state. Talk about these things. Have a lawyer who can sit down in the room with law enforcement, with the investigators, even from a news perspective, even from a PR perspective. When we have cases that are high profile, that are big in the news, we have to protect our clients on multiple fronts. So hiding out, avoiding law enforcement, we talked earlier about how invoking your rights does not mean you're guilty, but hiding, not a great look. We don't recommend it. Hire a strong legal team, a legal team that is not scared to sit down and tackle the really, really hard question here, which is, my client should come in, he should present himself, he can invoke his rights, he can remain silent, but he should present himself, and we should begin our investigation. We should start doing everything that we can do on the defense side to mitigate whatever might come from this very serious incident. So this is probably the most obvious, but what charges is Brian Laundrie potentially looking at here? And that is murder. In Florida, we do have the death penalty. I do believe that if he were to be arrested and indicted, either in state court or in federal court, for first-degree murder, if it's premeditated, then it's very, very likely, given the publicity of the case, that the state attorney's office, or if the federal government were to proceed in some fashion on these charges, that they are going to be asking for the death penalty in a case like this. This is that kind of case. This is a capital case. This is a capital crime, a death penalty case, and it's very serious. We hope he presents himself soon, and we hope that everybody involved, the family, the friends, the entire community that was rocked by this, does all come through this.